Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the latest edition of Wow Lynch Wow, dedicated to filmmaker David Lynch and inspired by the triumphant return of Twin Peaks. A friendly warning to everyone who isn't caught up on all 14 episodes of the new Twin Peaks. There will be spoilers and they will begin shortly, so viewers and listeners be warned. Part 14 begins with Gordon Cole returning a call to Sheriff Truman. Lucy patches him in, and Cole is surprised to be getting Frank instead of Harry. Frank informs Cole that they found missing pages from Laura Palmer's diary that indicates 2 Coopers. Gordon appreciates this, and he wishes Frank and Harry his best. Albert tells Tammy about the first case from 1975 in Olympia, Washington, when 2 young field agents, Cole and Jeffries, were going to arrest a suspect named Lois Duffy. They heard a gunshot, kicked the door in, saw 2 women inside, one holding a gun over the other. They recognized the wounded woman as Lois Duffy, who says, "I'm like a blue rose," before dying and vanishing. The other woman screaming in the corner, they then realize, was another Lois Duffy. She didn't have a twin, and she later hung herself in her jail cell. Gordon busts in for coffee time. Cole's attention is drawn to a window cleaner outside, which fucks with his hearing aid, but appears to have been delivering him some coded message or perception. Dianne enters. They discussed a Major Briggs case with her, and when the ring found in the Major's stomach enters the discussion, Dianne seems surprised because she has an estranged half-sister named Janey-E, who just so happens to be married to a dude named Dougie, matching the inscribed names on the ring. Cole calls the Vegas office on the line, and Cole wants them to look into Douglas Jones to find out anything they can. Dianne leaves, and then Cole tells Albert and Tammy about his talk with Truman regarding 2 Coopers. He also tells them he had another Monica Bellucci dream. He's in Paris, on a case. Monica meets Cole at a cafe. Cooper was there, but he couldn't see Coop's face. Even in his dreams, Cole drinks coffee. They talk about the dreamer who dreams and then lives inside the dream, and she had Cole look back. And then he saw himself from years ago, with Cooper warning him about a dream, the same day Philip Jeffries appeared, but didn't appear. Jeffries pointed at Coop saying, "Who do you think that is there?" And Cole had forgotten all about this moment. Bobby enters the conference room with a bunch of sandwiches, and him, Hawk, Andy, and Frank all sneak attack Chad with a surprise arrest. Apparently they have been on to Chad for months, and he's none too happy about this sudden turn of events. The 4 of them then head to Jackrabbits Palace with Bobby leading the way. They arrive, and the palace is actually on an old tree stump that's shaped an awful lot like the cliffside home of the giant. Andy reminds everyone they need to place some soil in their pockets, and they all do so. Hawk then leads the way 250 yards due east. They arrive and are welcomed by billowing smoke. And holy shit, it's the eyeless woman, just laying there naked in the middle of the woods. Andy checks on her, and she's alive. Truman informs everyone it's 2:53, and they all look on as a vortex opens in the sky like the one Cole previously saw. Everyone is mesmerized by the portal, and suddenly Andy vanishes. Holy shit! Andy's with the giant, and the giant tells Andy he is the fireman, and he raises his hand, and some type of device then appears in Andy's grasp. Smoke billows around Andy, and suddenly he looks up, and the giant reveals a little movie to him. He sees many visions. The mother of all evil coughing up Bob, the appearance of the woodsman at the convenience store, a woodsman asking for a light, Laura's high school murder aftermath, Laura Palmer surrounded by angels, the eyeless woman in the woods, Agent Cooper in the lodge, splitting into 2 coops, A blinking phone, him and Lucy looking concerned, focus on Lucy, and then him holding the eyeless woman's hand. Then Andy's demeanor suddenly changes, and he looks horrified when he sees the number 6 telephone pole. Smoke billows down from the screen into the device that Andy's holding, and suddenly the device vanishes, and so does Andy. Hawk, Truman, and Bobby are creeping around similarly to what we saw from the woodsmen when they first surfaced. Andy soon appears too, carrying the eyeless woman. Andy informs all that she's very important and that they need to protect her from people who want her dead. Andy is more direct and confident than usual, and almost appears to have taken on the demeanor of the giant. Hawk and Truman don't seem to remember anything about what just happened. Andy and Lucy put the eyeless woman, Naito, into a bathrobe, and then they lock her inside a jail cell. Chad starts bitching from inside his nearby cell, and Andy confronts him in vintage Andy form, no longer taking the demeanor of the giant. All the while, a drunk is repeating words like a parrot. The eyeless woman begins making animal noises, and the drunken parrot follows suit. This guy looks like he's on the verge of starting a zombie apocalypse, and the place soon sounds like a zoo, and this makes Chad angry. The animal noises continue, and they sound an awful lot like the sounds Cole heard earlier from the window cleaner. James and his buddy Freddie are taking a break. Freddie is wearing a green Hulk-like glove, and he's having difficulty not smashing his walnuts to dust. James helps him out. James is really cool. He goes by Jimmy now, and it's his birthday, so he wants to know the deal with his buddy's hand. Freddie explains something that sounds almost exactly like what just happened to Andy, except when Freddie saw the fireman told him to buy an already opened package of gloves that only had a glove for the right hand, and when Freddie went to the hardware store, sure enough, he saw such a pair as the giant described. An obtuse employee known as Jobsworth caused Freddie some difficulty in purchasing it, but Freddie ultimately insisted, dropped his cash, grabbed the gloves, and ran out the door, before ultimately knocking Jobsworth out with his new gloved hand. And Freddie said at that moment, he remembered that the fireman told him to go to Twin Peaks to find his destiny. Even James thinks this story is cool. James goes on security detail to check the furnaces, and he hears the same mysterious humming noise present in the Great Northern, only it seems stronger here. Sarah Palmer enters a bar and orders a Bloody Mary. A degenerate seated nearby makes some unwanted advances on her, and she politely declines. This angers the broken-down scumbag, and in a Bobby Peru moment, he becomes belligerent and begins saying some awfully rude things to Sarah, things that involve her eating other women. Sarah warns the scumbag that she will eat him. She removes her face and reveals an image beneath that looks a lot like the mother of all evil and perhaps a smiling Laura. Sarah replaces her face and then bites the scumbag's throat right off. Sarah screams, and the bartender is suspicious of her despite her slick denial of wrongdoing. Two young ladies are at the roadhouse talking about Billy. One lady admits that her and her mother saw Billy acting all weird. He ran into their house, he was bleeding all over the place, and he soon ran back out. The lady reveals that her mother's name was Tina, which I'm assuming is the same Tina who Charlie called for Audrey. And so ends part 14 with a musical number from Lissy. So the big takeaways from me from part 14. Number 1, Dianne said she has an estranged half-sister named Janey-E, who just so happens to be married to a guy named Dougie. Yet she doesn't mention the fact that Dougie looks exactly like Cooper with a bigger belly. It's possible she's lying and just feeding them information for someone. It's also possible she's telling the truth, and that she never met Dougie and never saw a picture of him. Or it's possible she knows and just doesn't want to share this information with them. I've gone back and forth about a half dozen times on whether Dianne is good or bad, or playing both sides against the middle. I'm convinced she has her own agenda, but I'm still totally clueless on what that agenda is. Whatever it is, though, I imagine it won't be long before the Blue Rose team tracks down the real Cooper in Vegas. Number 2, whatever is going on with Audrey and Billy, and also Charlie, Chuck, Tina, and that crew, I'm inclined to believe this will become something very important. Billy is a name we've now heard several times throughout the series, giving us reason to believe this all somehow ties into the bigger picture. And we had yet another mention of Harry Truman in this episode, too. Even if both characters remain off-screen presences, they both seem likely to play pivotal roles in something, along with Philip Jeffries, who we actually got to see in a Powerhouse flashback. Number 3. So the Giant, also known as the Fireman, he seems to be recruiting people for specific reasons to extinguish the fire that's seemingly about to erupt in Twin Peaks. We have the story from Jimmy's buddy Freddie, who has his very own superpower Hulk glove, and now Andy had all sorts of wisdom bestowed upon him by the Giant's movie montage. And by the way, of all the people he could have picked from that group, I absolutely love the fact that he chose Andy. Maybe it was because Andy was the one showing the most concern for the eyeless woman in her moment of need, holding her hand before being entranced in the gaze of the vortex like the others. Or maybe, as Freddie said, why me? Why not you? And why not Andy? In any case, Andy knows the eyeless woman serves a special purpose, and I'm curious to see how she fits into our realm. The fireman is trying to restore balance that was unsettled when Bad Coop cheated his return to the lodge. Andy and Cooper, I assume, will utilize the information the fireman gave them, and I'm curious to see who else the Giant may have recruited. Jerry Horn, perhaps? Or was Jerry on the wrong side of the woods? All I know is, whatever Freddie's destiny is, I can't wait to see what he does with his superpower Hulk hand. Number 4, and I'll have more to say about this and Audrey later this week, but the spooky Sarah Palmer reveal is a real game changer here. Sarah dominates every scene she appears in, and based on what we saw, I'm expecting to somehow see Leland soon, and I'm definitely expecting Sarah Palmer and Bad Coop to cross paths in the very near future. And when they do, I can't wait to see what type of explosive behavior this dynamic duo is sure to produce. And the biggest takeaway for me was, number 5, all the stuff involving Gordon Cole and the Blue Rose. The history of the first case, Gordon recalling his dream, Gordon becoming mesmerized by the squeaky noises of the window washer, Gordon previously having the vision of Laura Palmer, and Gordon previously entering the zone where he seemed like an experienced wizard in a magical realm. Gordon Cole clearly knows far more than what has been revealed to us as an audience. Gordon's recollection of his dream that recalled the moment with Cooper where Jeffries appeared but didn't appear, that scene has always struck me as one of the most significant moments in Twin Peaks history. Gordon had forgotten about that and said, now this is something really interesting to think about. It almost seems as if it's being suggested that Cooper had some type of affiliation with lodge entities predating the death of Laura Palmer. However all of this ultimately turns out, what I'm really hoping is that more is revealed regarding exactly what Gordon Cole knows and when he knew it. I'd love to learn more about that first case investigated by Cole and Jeffries, and more about subsequent cases that led us to where we are now. There's a glorious tale to be told here, and only Gordon Cole seems to know the full tale, at least among non-lodge entities, and that's assuming Cole himself isn't a lodge entity. I thought Part 14 was a total powerhouse that really seems to be pressing everything forward while amplifying the already existing aura of mystery. It was a terrific episode, and I'm sure this will come as no surprise, but I mean it like I say it. I'm just itching to see part 15. I'm just itching to see it. Thank you very much for watching. Please share your thoughts and theories in the comments section, and have a great night, everyone.